Hi, this is Michael Blum. I want to thank everybody this year for listening to the show. I had a lot of fun doing it. I hope you did too. Next year, we're going to try to increase the listenership and do a lot better for folks out there. Anyway, I do want to let everybody know that this is our winter hiatus, so we won't be back until after the new year. And I'm doing a repeat show right now that has to do with Judaism and hateful politics. And obviously, there's going to be some correlation between the two in there and some other stuff. I certainly hope that next year we live in a better place and that everyone can reconcile with each other and do good for what obviously is not political in nature at all. It's hard to find that thing nowadays, something that isn't political in nature at all. Things have been overly politicized, and it's a horrible thing. It will bring us down completely if we don't watch it. Or we can just sit back and watch it go down. Anyway, I wish everybody extreme health, wealth, and prosperity in everything that you do, from your personal life, your family life, professional life, and health. Health is important, so I say it twice. Anyway, I do want to wish everybody the best, and we will speak to you then next year. Take care now from The Michael Blum Show. Welcome to The Michael Blum Show, where we talk about things you don't want to talk about. We talk about sex. We talk about politics. We talk spirituality and substance abuse. Join us by calling 800-699-0980. Think, speak, and be heard. Here now is Michael Blum. Everybody, welcome to the Michael Blum Show. I hope everyone's had some fun the last week or two. I know I have. I celebrated a birthday. This week on Wednesday, I celebrate my 36th wedding anniversary. Married to a wonderful person who I love as strongly right now as I did way back when. I will be taking some hiatus time here during the summer, but I'd like you to join the show if you'd like to. It's 800-699-0980. That's the phone number. 800-699-0980. Today's topic, we will get into politics because it's almost unavoidable. But the nature of the show today, I wanted to talk about Jews. You see, because I am Jewish, and I know that there are a lot of people who have absolutely no concept of what Judaism is. Now, I got to explain to you, I'm not like a rabbi. I'm not anything like that. I'm not a preacher. I'm not an authority. I did maintain an Orthodox household for about 7 or 8 years. Very difficult to do. I no longer do that. But I have studied my own religion, and I got to admit a lot of ignorance in terms of others. But I studied my own religion quite often. I guess I'm not doing it much good to be wearing a corona thing. But see, I'm used to radio. I'm less used to video. I should actually be nice and put on a suit and all that. But I just don't. So anyway, I figured it might be a good topic to talk to. A lot of people have questions. A lot of people are unsure or misguided with certain things, and I would love to clarify and talk a little bit about what Judaism is, what it says, and things like that there. So again, if you'd like to, feel free to give me a call at 800-699-0980. You know, a lot of people want to know usually, well, what is it? What is a Jew? What does that even mean? And I'd say technically what it means is that if your mother was Jewish, then so are you. And there's no way around it. That's how it is. If you're an observant Jew, you know, that's just how it is. It's the mother is in charge of that aspect.
It, I guess, stems back from the fact that sometimes you can't really tell who the father ever was, but you know who the mother was. And so basically, anyone who was born of a female Jew is also Jewish. Now, it's odd to me, and if you want to call me on this, I would even appreciate it at 800-699-0980. I was surprised when I had office staff members say, "I would never call you a Jew." And I said, "Well, why? I am." And she said that in the non-Jewish world, calling someone a Jew is a pejorative term. I was rather surprised with that. So I said, "Well, what would you call me?" She'd say, "Well, my employer is Jewish," but she would never call me a Jew. So if that's ever happened to you, if that's true or not, or you have anything to to add or discuss about it, I'd love to hear. Again, 800-699-0980. Now, there have been lots of people throughout time who have tried to define what Judaism is and what it is not. Some people say it's just being a good person, and that's not true. It's being a good person is just being a good person. In Judaism, for you to be good means you have to go out of the way. Judaism expects that you're going to be good, quote unquote, to your own family, to your own kids, to your parents. That's fine, but that's expected. That you don't get any brownie points for that. There's nothing that doesn't really do much with you in terms of good. For you, you have to be proactively good, and what that means is you have to be helping people that need your help, even if they're not family members. It's interesting in a way. It's kind of like do unto others, and this is also do unto others as you would like them to do unto you, or Hillel versus Shammai. Hillel and Shammai were famous Jewish leaders way back when, and some non-Jew came to Shammai and said, "Teach me all of Judaism while standing on one foot," and Shammai promptly threw him out. Hillel had a different approach. Hillel said, "Don't do unto other people as you wouldn't want done unto yourself," which is kind of like the golden rule. And the golden rule it's called that for a reason. Not because it's made of gold, but because basically you can live in a very humane way with almost anybody in the world if you go ahead and you practice that. If you won't do unto someone something you wouldn't want done unto yourself, then that's how it is. It's kind of like who loves people unconditionally. It's doesn't really exist too much anymore in the world. Supposedly Moses did, Jesus did, a few other people did, but and a dog does all the time. I mean, they love unconditionally, but very few people do that. So in a raw sense, it's very hard to be Jewish, even that way. When you ask a lot of American Jews, also, are they Jewish? A lot of them will tell you, yeah. And then you say, well, what do you do that's Jewish? And they say, well, I don't really practice anything. I don't do anything. I'm Jewish in my heart. In my heart, I feel like I'm Jewish. Well, I got to tell you, having experienced both non-religious and religious households, that's kind of not really it. Okay, you can feel Jewish. You can feel all sorts of things in your heart. That doesn't make you whatever it is that you feel. You are not what you feel. You are what you do. And there's a big difference. I could say, gee, in my heart, really, truly, in my heart, I really love baseball. In my heart of hearts, I'm a ball player. And I can think that and want that forever. But you know what I'm not? I'm not a ball player. Because to do it in your heart is not enough. So to say that you're Jewish in your heart, well, that's wonderful and good, but it's not enough, really, in my opinion. Think differently, please give me a call, 800-699-0980. When I was in college, I went to Brooklyn College, City University of New York, graduated in 1976. Bicentennial year. Jimmy Carter, president. It's the last Democrat I ever voted for. But my Brooklyn College experience was basically you had the Muslims and you had the Jews, and the black Muslims and the Jews. That was pretty much it. So you can understand what the background was there. Now, me coming from a nice Jewish area where I didn't see anyone, I didn't even know what a non-Jew was at all, just like I'm sure a lot of people out there that have never really spoken to Jews or whatever. But there was an article in the Kingsman, which is the name of the university newspaper, called "Who Hates Jews?" And basically it said that Hitler was right and that he started the job and someone else should finish it off. and it was horrifically anti-Semitic. There was a cartoon with it that said, "What's the difference between a pizza and a Jew?" And the answer was, pizzas don't scream when you put them in ovens. Of course, the Jews were gassed beforehand. How humane is that? Before they were put in ovens, usually. So that was the first time in my life where I really felt Jewish in a way. Isn't that strange? It's strange that someone professing hatred for you actually makes you realize that there are people out there who don't really care who you are, what you're about, what you think, what you believe, or anything like that. They're just there for hatred. Jew hatred. That was what that was. Just, that's it. And no one knew who I was. I wasn't really religious at that point in time in my life. I didn't know anything. I was a young kid. So that was my first experience with that. And then I realized there'd be some other things that would kind of go by. I remember I had a very good friend who was Italian. We went into a music store. He was a percussionist in Bensonhurst, very, very Italian area. And he wanted to buy some things, and he asked the guy if he could get a better price. And the guy said, "Oh, what are you trying to Jew me down?" And that's the first time I had ever heard of that. He apologized profusely when we went out of the store. Didn't say anything to the guy when we were in the store. But when we were out of the store, he apologized, and I told him, "Don't worry about it," and that's all. And he's a very, very successful percussionist and set player, drum player in New York City. But all of these experiences, I had other experiences, and they just kind of led me to examine what Judaism was for myself a lot more. I remember going out with a girl, and we ate at a nice place, and on the way I was dropping her home. There was a temple, and there must have been a wedding or something because all the congregants were coming out. And she walked by and she went, "Oh, look at all the Jews." Just like that. I mean, didn't say anything bad. Didn't say anything mean. Didn't say anything nasty. Didn't say anything like that at all. However, that kind of stuck with me. And I realized that there are people that are really full of a lot of hate. And this girl happened not to be. But maybe it was me. Maybe I was just overly sensitive. I really can't tell. But I don't think so. And my concern is that as I read through the news now, and I see things that are happening in Europe and happening all over the world, and even in this country, I get kind of concerned because there's a new rise of anti-Semitism that's obvious and blatant. And it's here in the United States. It's here in our colleges. It's certainly all over Europe. You know, people want to be like Europe. I could never get that. When I went to Europe, and I've been to Europe a whole bunch of times, they are the most hateful people in the frickin' world. The French hate the Germans hate the French hate the French hate the English. I mean, they are really horrifically hateful people. And but anyway, that's how that is. So anyway, I have a genuine concern with what's going on with Judaism in this world. And there is an index, actually, that was published that explains a little bit of Judaism and Jew hatred throughout the world. I think it's worth a good watch.
There's no one official definition of anti-Semitism, no common standard. To make it simple for researchers to calculate the percentage of people of a certain country, region, or religion who are anti-Semitic, that's because anti-Semitism is measured in perceptions, how people perceive Jews. The Anti-Defamation League, an organization that fights prejudice, is introducing what could become a global baseline measure of anti-Semitism. A survey of over 50,000 people in 96 languages in over 100 countries. It was shared exclusively with the Wall Street Journal. What's the headline? That about a quarter of the world's population holds views of Jewish people that are, by ADL standards, anti-Semitic. What's its standard? The ADL created a questionnaire of 11 anti-Semitic statements or stereotypes, including Jews have too much power in international financial markets, Jews have too much control over the global media, Jews still talk too much about what happened to them in the Holocaust, and people hate Jews because of the way Jews behave. Those who said at least 6 statements are probably true are considered by the ADL to harbor anti-Semitic attitudes. The ADL's index attempts to leave people's political views on Israeli politics out of its equation. So, based on this index, where is anti-Semitism most prevalent? The Middle East and North Africa region, where 74% of people surveyed held anti-Semitic views. In the West Bank and Gaza, 93%. Iraq, 92%. Iran got the lowest score in the region, 56%. One response in particular is likely to alarm Jewish leaders. only 38% of people in this region have heard of the Holocaust. Of those who have heard about it, 22% agreed it's been described fairly by history. 63% think the Holocaust was a myth or exaggeration. What region is the least anti-Semitic? That would be the Americas, where less than 1 in 5 people overall hold anti-Semitic views. In the US, it's about 1 in 11. What about Europe? In Western Europe, the average score is 24%. But in Eastern Europe and Russia, anti-Semitic attitudes are 10% higher. How do Christians and Muslims worldwide compare? Nearly a quarter of Christians believed 6 or more of the survey statements. Muslims, around half. This is just a sampling of the trove of data in this study. But here's one last factoid. Of the people globally who believe a majority of the anti-Semitic stereotypes are probably true, the vast majority have never met a Jewish person.
Kind of interesting stats, huh? That's crazy. 26% of the anti-Semites in the world, 70% of those 26% have never met a Jewish person. So obviously they're not talking from what they know. They're talking from the past. You know, somebody had asked me a while back, how did Jew hatred start and all of that, and there are different reasons I guess you can point to. The most obvious to me is that basically the Old Testament says that. You know, I mean, it seems that as Christianity went on, more Romans were accepting Christianity than the Jews were. So St. Paul, Shaul, a Jew actually, started to, I think, wash his hands. He changed the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday, said you don't have to have kosher meal anymore, and basically, it says, his blood is on our children, meaning the Jews, Matthew's gospel, it's John's gospel portrays Jews as wanting to kill Jesus throughout his ministry, and I can give you quotes on that. There are similar statements that are found elsewhere. Again, like I said, Paul has made some, in that there's also the Gospel of Peter has all sorts of references to the fact that the Jews killed Jesus. So obviously there's been a lot of hatred. Now I know the Pope or someone has switched that up or tried to switch that up a little bit and said, no, it's not it. It's the Romans and all that, but there's still that hatred there. There are many other reasons. People just think the Jews are taking over the world. They own everything. They're telling you what to do. I don't know. I'm not a banker. I'm not a multimillionaire. I'm not very, very wealthy, and so I don't know how I do that. Now, yeah, there may be some wealthy Jewish guys out there that have a lot of control, but no more so than anyone who has the same amount of money elsewhere. Money's the big equalizer, you see. It's the big economic equalizer. You want to get rid of racism in this country? Have everyone working, have everyone making money, and that's the way you would go ahead and do it. Okay, you're not going to socially change anything. Social change takes its course over a long period of time. It does happen, but it's a long period of time. You can't pass a law to have people love each other. It just doesn't work that way. Anyway, I also know a bunch of people that some of them actually have left already, particularly France, due to the fact that they don't feel safe anymore. They don't feel they can walk through the street with a kippah, yarmulke, okay, that thing on the beanie, with that thing on the top of the head. They just do not feel that safe anymore. So they're leaving the country. I mean, France is leaving. I mean, it's an epidemic in Europe. Anti-Semitism is like unbelievably big. It is really, really quite nuts. Same thing is true, obviously, in Londonistan. You know that you've kind of lost some of your culture if you're in London, and the top name for newborn male children is Mohammed. So that means there's been some change, you see. I'm just looking through a couple of things here too. Okay, and Great Britain also, because of that, I went to Great Britain many years ago, and I was kind of like just didn't feel right in certain of the areas walking around. My wife calmed me down by having me have English tea. We had like English tea. It was the first time I did that. But it's not that I felt unsafe. I felt that, that's secondary? No, it's not I just felt weird. I just felt that something was going on that I really couldn't explain. And now, obviously, Londonistan is now a nice Muslim little nation within itself there, and I wish them the best that they can do. But there are some issues obviously happening in England too, as you get the Muslim population. If you remember from the index, we saw the Muslim population is probably the most hatred for Jews. And in England, since it's being taken over, but I wouldn't say taken over, because this is being taken over by Muslims. You have much more Jew hatred. Makes sense.
The
right?
eve of Sukkot, and this Jewish community in North London is preparing for 7 days and 7 nights of festivities. But the streets are shared with a noticeable police presence, and a report released today might help explain why. Hate crimes against Jews have increased by nearly a third since 2010, according to the Home Affairs Select Committee report, and the volume and viciousness of online abuse is unprecedented. It's all news that comes as no surprise to the community.
We will get calls from visibly Jewish people, whether it's in London, North Manchester, Gateshead, Leeds, other places, who tell us that on a regular basis when they walk to and from synagogue, they get abuse shouted at them by people on street corners, by people from passing cars. They may get stones or coins thrown at them. And for too many people, this is something they feel they have to put up with because it's just part of being Jewish.
The report shows an 11% rise in anti-Semitic incidents in the first half of this year compared to 2015. It also shows the number of people in Britain with anti-Semitic attitudes rose by 50% in just 12 months. And as many as 1 in 20 adults in the UK could now be characterised as clearly anti-Semitic. Daniel and Theo are barely in their teens, children who say they've had vicious hate shouted at them by grown men.
We were getting onto a bus and a car was driving by, and seeing as we were wearing our suits and our kippah on our head, the car slowed down and shouted, "You Jewish."
I was just thinking, why do they feel that way just because we're Jewish? I just felt it was unfair, and I just hadn't experienced anything like this before.
As bleak a picture as this report paints of anti-Semitism across the whole of the UK, some of the most critical lines are reserved for the Labour Party, saying there is, quote, safe space for people with vile attitudes towards the Jewish people. It also goes on to say that on this issue, Jeremy Corbyn has shown, quote, a lack of consistent leadership. It's of a different order to criminal hate speech, but the report cites cases like Naz Shah, who was suspended by the Labour Party for anti-Semitic Facebook posts before being elected to Parliament, and Ken Livingstone, who defended her before making further inflammatory comments. He was suspended too, but Ms Shah was allowed back into the party less than 3 months later.
Every political party has a problem and can and needs to do much better on tackling anti-Semitism. But let's not beat around the bush. The Labour Party has a particular problem with anti-Semitic incidents at the moment over the last year, and that's under Jeremy Corbyn's watch, I'm afraid.
Jeremy Corbyn today has criticised the report for unfairly focusing on Labour. He also said that under his leadership, Labour has taken greater action against anti-Semitism than any other party.
So the growth of anti-Semitism continues in Europe, particularly in England. I got a neighbor across the street, a retired New York City cop, and occasionally he kind of gets drunk and wanders around the neighborhood a little bit, and he always would grab me, or actually almost felt threatened once or twice with me and a few other neighbors that happened to be Jewish, yelling and screaming, he hated Obama, "You folks, you goddamn Jews, you're always voting for these pieces of crap. Why the hell do you do that?" And a lot of people have asked me, since the left seems to really hate Judaism, why do Jews actually vote left quite often? And it's an interesting question. And I wanted the experience and the knowledge and the support of a very religious man to go ahead and help answer it, and I think I did that here.
Hi, I'm Ben Shapiro, and this is Reality Check. In 2008, American Jews voted overwhelmingly for Barack Obama. Even though Obama had spent large segments of his prior life hobnobbing with vicious anti-Semites like Jeremiah Wright and Rashid Khalidi, even though he had staffed his campaign with anti-Semites ranging from Zbigniew Brzezinski to Robert Malley, Jews turned out in droves for him. Sarah Silverman harangued young Jews into telling their grandparents that they were racist if they didn't vote for Barack Obama. Jeffrey Goldberg, President Obama's designated court Jew, a role he has never relinquished, informed Jews that they were racist if they feared Obama's positions on Israel. American Jews voted 78% for Barack Obama in 2008. After he was elected, Obama proceeded to undermine Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He forced Netanyahu to humiliate himself before thugs like the Turkish government, publicly condemn Israel's defense of itself during the Gaza war against Hamas while funding the Hamas unity government, repeatedly leak vital national security information that would have allowed Israel to strike Iran, and sign a deal with Iran that essentially foreclosed any possibility of Western attempts to stop Iran from going nuclear. And so American Jews voted 69% for Barack Obama in 2012. The question I'm most often asked, thanks to my kippah, is why Jews vote leftist. The answer is simple. The vast majority of Jews don't care about Judaism or Israel. They care about secular leftism, which is their actual religion. And the polls show this. American Jews are the least religious group in America. Only 41% say that their religion is important to them in their daily life, according to a December 2012 Gallup poll. Only 34% said they attend religious services at least monthly, compared with 65% of Jews who said they attended religious services seldom or never. 22% of Jews say they have no religion. According to an October 2013 Pew poll, just 38% of Jews say their Jewish identity has anything to do with Judaism at all. Just 10% of Jews identify as Orthodox, people who consider themselves fulfilling the commandments of the Torah. As for Israel, just 30% of Jews say they are very attached to Israel. Only 43% of Jews have ever been to Israel. And here's an amazing statistic. Just 40% of Jews believe that God gave Israel to the Jewish people. 27% say God didn't. Another 5% said they didn't know. And 28% said they didn't even believe in God. So, what does being Jewish actually mean to most Jews? Again, according to that Pew poll, 73% of Jews said it was about remembering the Holocaust. It isn't. Just 19% said it was about observing Jewish law. Only 28% said it was about being part of a Jewish community. Jews, in other words, are not religious. They are secular leftists who don't want to be labeled white people because they like being diverse and being able to enjoy the in-jokes at Woody Allen films. So, why is it a surprise that most Jews vote leftist? Most Jews aren't Jewish in any real sense beyond ethnic identification. They have nothing to do with Torah, the 5 books of Moses. They have nothing to do with the ethical system posited by biblical Judaism. They have nothing to do with the mitzvot, the commandments. They have nothing to do with Israel. Polling Jews on their politics is like polling anyone born Catholic on their politics. You're going to skew far to the left by including lapsed Catholics. And most Jews are lapsed Jews or never knew anything in the first place Jews. The Torah is not a left-wing document. It opposes abortion. It opposes same-sex marriage. It does not believe in a grand welfare system, but in private charity. It dictates belief that Israel was promised to the Jews and that the Jews have a responsibility to live ethically according to a very specific set of behavioral guidelines. Judaism is conservative in the modern parlance. Those who pretend to back both Judaism and left-wing values are betraying Torah Judaism, which is why while Jews vote 3-1 for Democrats, Orthodox Jews vote nearly 2-1 for Republicans. Now, there are older Jews who vote leftist because they remember the bad old days of country club Republicans who rejected them from the golf course, and they don't realize that things have changed pretty dramatically. There are older Jews who vote leftist because they remember the legacy of European Christianity that preyed on Jews for centuries, and they don't realize that American Christians are Jews' best friends, not the American left that stands by President Obama. But, by and large, most Jews vote leftist because they are upper middle-class agnostics with above-average levels of postgraduate education who believe that religion is a great ill, that biblical morality is intolerant and vicious, and that Judaism itself is passé. So, bottom line, Jews who care about actual Judaism don't vote leftist, and those who prioritize leftism don't vote Jewish. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel or click here to give a quick donation.
Well, we won't be giving you a quick donation right now, Ben, but he's a pretty interesting guy. So I don't agree with everything he says, and sometimes he's just inflammatory just to be inflammatory. But on some of these things, he actually is pretty good in explaining things. It's a project of David Horowitz Freedom Center, and I've had David on the show once or twice, and they really, really know this stuff inside out and backwards and forwards. But basically, that's pretty, and I agree with it. That most Jews they're just Jew by name. They're not like, oh, they feel it in their heart. You know, again, you get a lot of that, but that's about it. What's strange to me is that that in the left wing of the Democratic Party, we start to see a lot of growing anti-Semitism there. And that's a major concern, because now you're having your anti-Semitism really enter into the higher echelons of the people who actually are part of the political system of the country.
Let's talk about anti-Semitism. I've talked about right-wing and left-wing anti-Semitism before, and many of us on the left are quick to admit that anti-Semitism on the right is a major problem, and it is a major problem, and I've talked about it before, right? Right-wing anti-Semitism from white nationalists, the patriot and militia type movements, many sources of right-wing anti-Semitism. But we're also seeing left-wing anti-Semitism, and it's coming from different places. It's sometimes coming on college campuses. It's sometimes from so-called African-American rights groups that we've covered in the past, anti-Semitic statements and I guess statements is what I would really call it, proclamations of sorts. And the causes of left-wing anti-Semitism are different than the causes on the right. And this isn't a comprehensive list, but left-wing anti-Semitism sometimes stems from antipathy towards Israeli foreign or domestic policy. It can stem from the perception that despite being one of the most persecuted groups in human history, Jews are now seen by some as a privileged group in some countries, and sometimes as a group undeserving of the so-called privilege that they're perceived to have. Sometimes it's related to straight-up conspiracy theories of control. Sometimes it's merely the feeling that in order to be for Palestinian rights, you have to be more vocally against Jews at large. There's many reasons that I haven't mentioned, and it's also combinations of the reasons that I have. In any case, college campuses are quickly becoming an epicenter of left-wing anti-Semitism, and there have been some horrible incidents over the last week or so. Recently, there was an event called the Chicago Dyke March on Saturday. It's an LGBT rights event. And 3 people carrying Jewish pride flags. In other words, it's a rainbow LGBTQ flag with a Star of David in the middle, basically saying, hey, the Jewish community supports LGBTQ rights. They were asked to leave the march because they, quote, repeatedly expressed support for Zionism, which is a, by and large, pretty meaningless phrase. And one member of the Dyke March Collective said that those people carrying the rainbow flags with the Star of David in the middle were told to leave because people were feeling unsafe as a result of the flags, adding that the march was an anti-Zionist, pro-Palestinian march, according to the Windy City Times. And one of those people who was kicked out of the march said she was approached multiple times about her flag. This is Laurel Grauer, who said they were telling me to leave because my flag was a trigger to people that they found offensive. A member of the Dyke March Collective spoke to the Chicagoist on Sunday and insisted, oh no, our organization isn't anti-Semitic, but we don't want to be associated with anything that could be interpreted as pro-Israel. And the Dyke March organizers subsequently released a statement explaining that the decision to remove Jewish marchers was, quote, made after they repeatedly expressed support for Zionism during conversations with Dyke March Collective members. What was one of those expressions of Zionism? Well, Laurel Grauer said that she believes in a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and apparently that was just too much. Listen, infighting is a destructive force in social movements, and the LGBTQ movement, as has been exposed by a number of good investigative pieces, is having an issue with anti-Semitic elements, and it's particularly self-destructive and disturbing to see groups fighting for minority rights often reject the support of Jews. In the black community, which in some places is directly at odds with Jews, for example, near where I used to live in Brooklyn, in South Williamsburg, Brooklyn, in New York City, there is pretty significant tension between the Hasidic and black communities there. And it's extra upsetting to me to see that, given the very long history in the United States of Jews being there, fighting for minority rights, LGBTQ rights, African-American rights, Mississippi Burning, right? Many people don't know this. Mississippi Burning, the movie based on the 1964 murders of 3 civil rights workers during the civil rights movement. 2 of the 3 people killed there were Jews. And historically, Jewish groups have been at the forefront of fighting for LGBT rights, groups like the Anti-Defamation League. This is so toxic and so destructive. And at the core, whatever your feelings are, Pat, movements that start this infighting end up mostly hurting themselves.
It really is too bad that this is going on the left. If you look at the other side, Republicans have had a big issue with racism ever since Lyndon Johnson signed the South away with the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act.
Sure.
Now, of course, that's not indicative of every Republican, and it's small in numbers, but still very significant.
Sure.
And that's why I think, conservatives do have a responsibility to call their fellow racist conservatives out on that.
As do we.
And if this continues to grow, we'll have that same responsibility when it comes to anti-Semitism on the left.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. And this is just, I mean, what are we gaining? What did the LGBTQ rights/pride movement gain by kicking someone out for having a flag that indicated the Jewish community supports LGBTQ rights and believed in a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? Explain to me how the march was better off, okay?
Well, stupidity really has no bounds. This guy is like, that's the reason why. The reason why is because once you get into hate becomes very blinding. I get angry very often with politics and politicians, but I don't hate them. I don't think they're that important for me to hate, because hatred to me requires a lot of energy to hate. And I don't put that into something that I don't think is important. And I prefer to put that into other things, being proactive and loving people as much as possible. But sometimes you come up across this where basically there is not a hell of a lot of love that you can really muster up and go ahead and give out, particularly with people that are so hateful to begin with, and that seems to be their religion. It's just as anti-Semitism, when it starts to enter into politics, you start to get a lot of folks that are in leadership positions that really are anti-Semites. And sometimes we know who they are and we kind of look the other way. Sometimes we are shocked when we find out who they are. Israel went through a massive bombing a couple of days ago. 1,000 or so rockets were from Gaza, backed by Hezbollah, backed by Iran. Those are, Obama's friends. And he gives billions of dollars in pallets of unmarked bills. Oh, Obama must be living so well off that money. But anyway, there was absolutely no mention in any news outlet that I looked at this week about the bombings. I think maybe they're starting to now, maybe, but basically Omarosa is way more important than anything like that. So don't expect to hear anything unless it's hate, unless it's Trump hate. It's not important to the news at all. So there was no mention at all about these things going on. And it's not surprising because we start to see that, again, like I said, the political makeup of the country really, really does start to change. And you start to have people like not the director, the assistant director for the DNC, Ellison, Keith Ellison. And he's helping run the Democratic machine, the Democratic Party, and that's what you start to have.
In your party come out against the Second Amendment.
Bill, I sure wish they would. I sure wish they would.
Really? Because I never hear anybody in the Democratic Party say that. What they say is, I am also a strong supporter.
You got to check out the Progressive Caucus. We have come out. I sure wish they would. I sure wish
really?
They would.
Because
in 2014, you told Bill Maher that you wished the Democratic Party would come out against the Second Amendment. How do you reach out to Americans who support gun rights when you don't support the Second Amendment?
First of all, let me tell you, I remember that show very well, and that is not what I said at all.
Bill Maher, then why doesn't your party come out against the Second Amendment? It's the problem. Your response, I sure wish they would. I sure wish they would.
No, that was I wish you'd play the tape, because if you did, you'd see that.
Ellison, the first Muslim American elected to Congress, has also gotten the backing of liberal senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, even though Ellison wrote columns in law school defending Nation of Islam founder Louis Farrakhan's anti-Semitism. And now an audio tape from 2010 has surfaced in which Ellison declares Israel is running American foreign policy.
The United States foreign policy in the Middle East is governed by what is good or bad through a country of 7 million people.
While the Anti-Defamation League initially took a balanced view of Ellison's DNC candidacy, saying it appreciated his contrition about past statements, but had concerns about his commitment to Israel's security, after the tape surfaced, the ADL blistered him Thursday. Quote, Representative Ellison's remarks are both deeply disturbing and disqualifying. His words raise the specter of age-old stereotypes about Jewish control of our government.
But it's his own words now coming back to haunt him. Ellison wrote several incendiary columns while he was in law school. Many of those words now coming to light where the Muslim accused Zionists or pro-Israeli supporters of collaborating with Nazis. As recently as 2007, he continued to peddle conspiracy theories, one time even leading an audience member to suggest that George W. Bush, the president, benefited personally from the terror attacks on 9/11.
9/11 is this juggernaut event in American history, and it allows, I mean, it's almost like, you know, the Reichstag fire kind of reminds me of that. Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but who benefited from 9/11?
Well, I mean, you know, you and I both know.
Yeah, Bush.
But the thing is that, you know, after the Reichstag was burned, they blamed the communists for it, and it put the leader of that country in a position where he could basically have authority to do whatever he wanted.
You could hear the audience member say Bush benefited from 9/11. Ellison did not correct him. He let that go unopposed. The Reichstag fire, happened in 1933, an arson attack on the German parliament. It's viewed in history as a key event in the rise of Hitler. Ellison, as a black Muslim, and made these remarks in 2007. George W. Bush was still in office. He did not go out of his way to correct that audience member who compared George W. Bush, the American president, to the leader of the Nazi movement, Adolf Hitler. Ellison's writings and radio appearances also often would wade into radical and extremely controversial territory. He would routinely talk about many of these issues and perhaps the reason why he wrote under so many fake names. On the radio, he went by Keith Muhammad. He hosted a show called Black Power Perspectives on Thursday nights from 6 to 7 o'clock. When he ran for office, he took on the name Ellison, as a name that he perhaps felt more Americans might support at the ballot box. It was a shrewd move. But when he was writing articles, he would write under Keith E. Hakeem. You can see the byline there. He also used to refer to himself as Keith X. Ellison, and later Keith Ellison Muhammad, a man with an identity crisis now pushing to lead a party with its own identity crisis. The Minnesota congressman defended Muslim leader Louis Farrakhan against racism and anti-Semitic charges. Ellison's past ties to the Nation of Islam are now resurfacing as well. It's part of after his campaign apology tour, where he rejected the group during his congressional run. He was running for office in 2006, so he distanced himself from that controversial group. Ellison has since told the Washington Post that his political beliefs have become more moderate since he left that group. In the year 2000, Ellison went public with his support and defense of violent liberal activist groups who targeted police in ambushed killings throughout the years. Many of these groups are often hailed in the so-called Black Power movements in their circles. On top of his deeply divisive and radical views, Ellison was also ranked one of the 32 least effective members of Congress. This is a nonpartisan group, govtrack.us.
We can go on like this for another 10 minutes or so, but I think you get the idea. Ellison basically, you know, he's one of the new faces in the Democratic Party, you know. Unbelievable. I mean, I don't know how you can be a Democrat today because I don't even know what that even means anymore. If you could give me a call and elucidate it, go ahead. 800-699-0980. That's 800-699-0980. But the Democrats, someone who I find to be very, very brilliant and astute, he said to me, basically, there's splinters, and he's having trouble as a Democrat. He calls himself a progressive, which I love the term because, to me, there's nothing progressive about progressivism. It's actually regressive. It's putting us back into a place that we've already left. Particularly in terms of political correctness, which is like, God, I don't, you know, it's hard for me to really, it's hard for me to be tolerant sometimes. I think I am, but it's hard for me to be tolerant sometimes because usually there's some area of agreement, like the old Venn diagrams. You had A and B, and they would kind of, the union of A and B would create this little area C, and you could always deal with that and kind of get into both ends of the story. But if I'm for free speech and you want to get rid of the Second Amendment, where is our compromise? Hate speech? Who gets to decide what's hate speech? Me? You? Who? You know, it's whatever the whim happens to be at the moment of the politic or the nation or the popular theory at the time. So obviously, I'm not for that. I don't believe in hate speech. This speech, you know. If you're talking about endangering another human being, well, that's something else, you know. like crying fire in the theater or threatening to kill someone, unless, of course, it's the president or a Republican. Then that's today's day and age. Unfortunately, that's not that bad. That's okay. It's to be expected because, after all, if you're not a Democrat, then you're a Nazi and you hate people anyway. It's funny, I've had the same political kind of background and thought process for the last, like, 20 years. And now all of a sudden I'm a racist. You know, it's very, very interesting, to say the least. But this is the new face of the Democratic Party. You have your great black Muslim leader who hates Jews. He's helping run the Democratic Party, which most Jews vote for. And then, ironic. You know, I mean, things are just so ironic, it's unbelievable. We do have other new faces that also have things to say about Israel, and they make sense. So let's hear what Alejandria Ocasio-Cortez, you know, it's weird you have to say it that way. You can't just say Alexandria, you know, you can't do it that way. It has to be the other way. Anyway.
Well, yes, but I also think that what people are starting to see, at least in the occupation of Palestine, is
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
just an increasing crisis of humanitarian conditions. And that, to me, is just where I tend to come from on this issue.
You use the term the occupation of Palestine. What did you mean by that?
I think what I meant is like the settlements that are increasing in some of these areas and places where Palestinians are experiencing difficulty in access to their housing and homes.
Do you think you can expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd also just...
What?
I am not the expert on geopolitics on this issue.
Well, that's quite interesting, huh? I'm telling you, boy, if there's ever proof positive that the educational system has failed in this country, she's it. Absolutely blithering know-nothing. Bartender last year, now she's the new face of the Democratic Party. And it's Tom Perez, who is Ellison's boss, who is giving her all these accolades and thinks she's just the wonderful, the best thing since sliced bread, which basically sliced bread came out in 1928. My father actually is older than sliced bread, but we don't mention that too often. But anyway, this is the people who will be making decisions in the future. Oh God, help us all, help us all. And it's just so odd to me that these are the people. This is the face of the Democratic Party now. I mean, I feel bad for them. I really do. There are other people who have had other things to say about Ocasio-Cortez. So let's hear what they have to say as well.
I would love to have a real conversation with you about the issues. You've noted you think Republicans are afraid to debate you or talk to you or discuss the issues with you. Not only am I eager to discuss the issues with you, I'm willing to offer $10,000 to your campaign today.
Wow. All right. First, the challenge, and then the rejection. Conservative commentator Ben Shapiro calling for a debate with Democratic Socialist Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. He wants to debate her. He wants to debate her on the issues. The New York congressional candidate taking issue with Ben Shapiro, tweeting out, "Just like catcalling, I don't owe a response to unsolicited requests from men with bad intentions." And also, like catcalling, for some reason, they feel entitled to one. Whoa, all right. We called Ocasio-Cortez and we asked her to come on the show. She has yet to respond. But you know who did respond? None other than Ben Shapiro for his first interview since that tweet. Ben, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Making
First of all,
I
just want to know quickly.
She's making news with you here. Go ahead.
Yeah, quick comment. First of all, how dare you catcall Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez by inviting her on your show? I mean, how dare you? That's sexism in action right there.
Yeah, apparently. You know, what do you think of that, though? I mean, to use that term, which, you know, that's just to remind everyone, a woman's walking down the street and someone, you know, whistles or something, that's catcalling. How is what you did, asking her to have an intellectual debate on the actual issues, how is that in any way relevant or similar to a catcall?
Catcalling must be very weird in Queens. I don't know if they're like construction workers standing on street corners and shouting to women, "Hey, baby, want to have an hour-long public conversation about trade policy and the vagaries of Viennese economics versus neo-Marxist economics?" It gets strange in her district, apparently. But again, this is so many folks on the left jumping to a sort of intersectional defense in which anybody who requests a discussion or a debate must be evil by their very nature, right? I'm a man, therefore I am catcalling her, even though as an Orthodox Jew, I have never catcalled a woman in my entire life. It's catcalling because I guess if I suggest that I want to have a conversation, I'm demanding a response. Well, every request is a request. All she had to say here was, nah, that would have been fine. I mean, she's got that prerogative, but she goes around talking about how...
Though? I mean, that's part of our platform,
absolutely.
right? Everybody's a victim, and you know, we need to take as much money as we can from everybody else to redistribute it. That's what socialism is about. So is she just playing that victim card?
No question. And the fact that she feels the necessity to go to this particular card, right, to play the I'm a female and therefore I'm being victimized, this is like catcalling. The fact she goes there, instead of just saying, you know what, I'm not interested in debate, the reason she didn't say the latter is because she didn't want to look like she was afraid. And she's been going around on the internet suggesting that people like Ali Stuckey are afraid of her when they make satire about her, or that people on the right are deeply afraid of her perspective. And then the minute that somebody says, you know what, I'm willing to have a discussion or a debate with you, and not only that, just to make it worth your time, I'll give money to charity or your campaign, then it's all of a sudden catcalling if you suggest such a thing. It's pretty amazing.
Well, you know, I first saw that, and it didn't even make sense to me because of the use of the word catcall and the fact that you actually were asking her to have a civil conversation and a real debate. But she's not going to do it. Why do you think she's not going to do it, Ben?
Well, I mean, I don't think there's a lot of upside for her, to be frank. I mean, if she were to get into a discussion with somebody who asks her tough questions, I don't think she has the information or the philosophy at her disposal to actually answer those questions well. And she knows that, which is why her best move here would have been either to just ignore or to say no, and then everybody would have moved on with their life. But instead, it turned into her invoking victim status, which, you know, rallies the base. There's no question folks in the media are very excited about this. If you look at the leftist response to her tweet, it's Ocasio-Cortez responds the way every Democrat should respond to anybody on the right who wants to have a discussion. And then they wonder why more Americans are turning away from the intersectional left than ever.
Yeah, you know, Ben, one of the things that has always made us great is an appreciation for some kind of intellectual diversity, right? Being able to have civil debates, being able to share ideas. I mean, that's how we evolve. That's how we get better. But when one side isn't even willing to have the conversation, where does that leave us as a country?
Yeah, that is the serious problem. And what's absurd is there are a bunch of folks on the left who responded to this entire controversy by tweeting at me. These are mainstream left commentators saying, well, why don't you have me on your show? And I was like, okay. And they didn't really know how to respond to that because I'm happy to have conversations with folks on the left. I have conversations with folks on the left all the time. The left just doesn't want to open the Overton window enough to have conversations with anybody on the right.
Yeah, well, because they automatically assume they're right, you're wrong, and they don't want to be proven otherwise with any kind of factual knowledge. I mean, look, you know, I think if you go out and you ask anyone, and you know this better than Americans believe in opportunity, right, and prosperity. It's just in our DNA. It's part of what this country was founded on. But you go around the world, and whether you're talking about Venezuela, or you're talking about Cuba, you're even talking about Denmark, where they charge well over 50% in taxes at the federal rate, so everybody's working for the government, where you pay 180% tax on a car, which is more than the cost of a car, or, you know, you go to college and get a stipend. They plan on 5 years, but everybody's taking 6+ years because you're being paid to go to a free college. It shows you, when you look at their debt levels, even in Denmark, it just doesn't work, does it?
Well, I mean, this is the serious problem with a lot of socialist philosophy, is that they're constantly shifting the goalposts. You know, is it that their education system is good, or their healthcare system is good, or is it that all of these systems are built atop a capitalist edifice that made these countries prosperous in the first place? And these are the conversations that actually should be had, but Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is not interested in having them, obviously.
Hey, by the way, let me ask you about the harassment of conservative commentators. Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, what did you think about that one?
Well, I mean, obviously, that was insane, and I told Charlie I feel lucky that I eat in kosher restaurants where most of the people who are around me are members of my community, because I'd like to be able to get through a meal in peace. Apparently, Charlie and Candace cannot.
Well, you know, Ben, I'll tell you one thing. Had you debated her, my money's on you.
Well, it would have been fun. Would have been fun. Oh, well.
All right. Thank you so much. It's good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And again, another face of the new face of the Democratic Party. You know, there's some old faces too there in the Democratic Party, and some of them I really feel for. Nancy Pelosi's having all sorts of issues. I think I was talking to someone about that. My father, basically, which is interesting because my father really don't talk about much of anything. But Nancy Pelosi, you know, I feel bad for her because there's some neurological problem with her, and it just, you know, I don't mind opposing thought, as loony as it is. is you say it, and the people know who you are and where you stand. But she is the antithesis of this quote-unquote gorgeous-looking new socialist leftist. She doesn't want that. I mean, she's as a civil servant has made like near $40 million for herself. Kind of hard to do on a civil service job. I think she blames it all on her husband. But Pelosi has some issues going on too. The older faction doesn't want her basically to be running the House, and of course, just like Hillary is obviously going to win, the blue wave is going to make her the Speaker of the House. Who knows? I don't think so. I don't think there will be a blue wave. I'm not saying that the Democrats may not I think they may get control of the House. I mean, statistically, that's what's been happening. I don't like to go against years and years and years of stats, but this is a unique president, and maybe we can pull off a red wave rather than a blue wave. Or if it's a blue wave, it's going to be hello or goodbye. But we can see. But Pelosi is having some issues because, again, the newfangled leftist socialist Democrats really don't care for her. She's an old piece of meat, and it's time to get rid of her. You know, forget what she's done, if anything, and let's get rid of her. And it's kind of sad in a way. I really do feel for her.
And I do think there would be bipartisan support coming together to pass a bill to make it illegal to sell those, because you can buy them now. As
completely legal.
Yeah. And all we're saying is you should have a background check. And people, responsible gun owners from the hills of Arizona to the duck blinds of Minnesota, all over, say we're all law-abiding. We have many guns. We have as many guns as he had. But we have background checks. I think she has a call. Internet purchases and the rest. Hundreds of thousands, if not a couple million, sales were prevented from happening, and that saved lives.
All right, you need to take a break.
You know what I said about people who wanted to go work in the Trump administration? Know your blood
They're
type.
continually taking a break
This
because
is a very
of her inability to answer
awkward
questions
place
and
to
forget
work.
where she
If
is.
it's on CNN or on TV or anything, has an authority line. And we want fuller disclosure of who's buying the ads. That's why we are against the dark money that came from the Citizens United decision.
Mm-hmm.
Where does this money come from? This isn't a frivolous thing. And many of us who are interested in the public knowing who's advertising, but nonetheless one who works closely with our tech community, come from San Francisco, and one who wants the ads to be identified. I see the balance that we have to have, but thank you for your question.
All right, let's take a break. A lot of people online are saying, what about Puerto Rico? We're going to discuss it at the CNN Town Hall with leader Nancy Pelosi right after this quick break.
And it gets worse and worse for this poor lady who basically really looks terrible. So she's one of the old. I'm trying to give everyone like a feel for the new Democratic Party and what it's all going to be about. And see, so right now it's a meld. You have your socialist, leftist, communists, extreme left, and you have those that are globalists that don't believe in the United States. They believe in the world. We're citizens of the world, and that kind of bullshit. That never works anywhere ever. So you have those, and basically whoever was like what we used to call the moderate Democrats, they don't exist anymore. Or if they do, they have to shut up because they're not welcome. I mean, Schumer basically is like that. If it was a different era and age, Schumer would be working hand in hand with Trump and getting a ton of crap done. But can't happen now. It just can't happen now. So we have other fearless leaders who are so good. I hope that all of these people, that Ellison and Alejandria Ocasio-Cortez and Nancy Pelosi and this winner actually become the face of the Democratic Party, because God help them then. It can only do good.
I'm D. Watkinson with the Salon 5, and today we're going to give you 5 reasons why Maxine Waters should be our next president. Number 5.
Congressman, we're just, in case you can't see, showing video of you standing on the aisle and shaking a number of presidents' hands over the years, both Republicans and Democrats. So my final question to you, Congressman Engel.
No, you have not. Excuse me.
Talking to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had been talking to me about standing on the aisle and shaking hands.
No, I'm sorry, Congresswoman
I'm sorry.
Maxine Waters.
Yes,
I'm talking to Congressman Engel, who has stood there, and we've shown over the years.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that, for the confusion.
Sure. He is wrapping his arms around Putin while Putin is continuing to advance into Korea.
Our millennials are a force. I recognize it, and I was the millennial once. No longer, of course. I was the millennial once.
I do not wish to debate. I wish to ask, is there one United States senator who will join me in this letter of rejection?
No debate. There is no debate. The gentlewoman will suspend.
I have not called for impeachment.
You said I'm going to fight every day until he's impeached. That's what you tweeted.
Yeah, but here's what I've said. My greatest desire is to lead him right into impeachment. Impeach 45. Impeach 45. Impeach 45.
That's why I nominate Maxine Waters to be our next president. Because again, Maxine Waters let you know that she is a strong black woman.
I'm a strong black woman.
Wow, I'm a strong black woman. She's a strong black woman. Good. I hope she can lift up some weights and take her big cartons out of Congress. If she's strong enough to go ahead and take all of that stuff out of the office when they dump her sorry ass out on the street after the next election. So these are your major hitters. Your major hitters in the Democratic Party. I mean, this is what you got to look forward to. I'm going to take a quick break here, and then we'll come back in a little bit and maybe get into something a little bit more humorous, perhaps. So don't go away. I'll be back in a little bit. Stay tuned. Hi. At The Michael Blum Show, we talk about the things you don't want to talk about. If in your own personal life you have an experience or an event or something that's changed you, we'd love to hear about it and maybe get your story on air. Feel free to give us a call, 800-699-0980. Again, that's at 800-699-0980. Or feel free to email me at michael@blumradio.com. That's Michael, Michael, at blumradio, blumradio.com. And we will get in touch with you and put your story on the air.
This is Steve Kane with Dr. Jonathan Cook from JJ Dental. Jonathan, I was just blown away by the reviews that your patients left online.
Yeah, sure. My website and Yelp, Google Places, Facebook, you name it. There's plenty of places to go to find 5-star reviews and read what our patients are saying about us.
You heard Dr. Cook. Go online, read his reviews. You'll be blown away too. And then call for an appointment, 954-463-7262, or online at jjdentalpractice.com.
Hi, this is Michael Blum. Join me on Tuesday evenings from 8 to 10 p.m. for The Michael Blum Show, where we talk about the things you don't want to talk about. We talk about sex. We talk about politics. We talk substance abuse and spirituality. So think, speak, and be heard. Call us at 800-699-0980 and join us on The Michael Blum Show. Hi, this is Dr. Michael Blum. I just moved my practice down the block to my new office at JJ Dental, just 4 blocks south of my old office. I chose JJ Dental because it's a 5-star rated practice. That's why you should choose them too. Call 954-463-7262 and ask for an appointment with me, Dr. Blum, or any other of the fine dentists at JJ Dental, creating beautiful, healthy smiles that last a lifetime. Call 954-463-7262 and visit us online at jjdentalpractice.com. Hi, this is Michael Blum. If you would like to be part of the Michael Blum Show and be a sponsor, call us at 800-524-8040 or email me at michael@michaelblumshow.com. You could have been listening to your commercial for your business rather than this stuff. Call us at 800-524-8040. Hi. At the Michael Blum Show, we talk about the things you don't want to talk about. If in your own personal life you have an experience or an event or something that's changed you, we'd love to hear about it and maybe get your story on air. Feel free to give us a call, 800-699-0980. Again, that's at 800-699-0980. Or feel free to email me at michael@blumradio.com. That's Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, at blumradio, B-L-U-M radio.com. And we will get in touch with you and put your story on the air.
This is Steve Kane with Dr. Jonathan Cook from JJ Dental. Jonathan, I was just blown away by the reviews that your patients left online.
Yeah, sure. My website and Yelp, Google Places, Facebook, you name it. There's plenty of places to go to find 5-star reviews and read what our patients are saying about us.
You heard Dr. Cook. Go online, read his reviews. You'll be blown away too. And then call for an appointment, 954-463-7262, or online at jjdentalpractice.com.
Hi, this is Michael Blum. Join me on Tuesday evenings from 8 to 10 p.m. for The Michael Blum Show, where we talk about the things you don't want to talk about. We talk about sex. We talk about politics. We talk substance abuse and spirituality. So think, speak, and be heard. Call us at 800-699-0980 and join us on The Michael Blum Show. Hi, this is Dr. Michael Blum. I just moved my practice. That's called Crystal Ball. I wrote that a long time ago. Anyway, I do tend to write my own songs for this show. All the leaders, all the bumpers, all that stuff is written by me or written by someone who was alive 200 years ago, so I don't have to worry about copyright problems. First half of the show is very, very kind of like on a more serious note. I'd like to lighten it up a little bit. There's still some politics I'd like to get to, but this is kind of like an odds and ends kind of a thing. I'm surprised I didn't get a phone call, but if you'd like to call me now, please feel free to. 800-699-0980. It's 800-699-0980. There is a politician who is who I'm really starting to enjoy, Candace Owens, the left's worst nightmare, a brilliant, bright, articulate, black woman conservative. Ooh. The left really doesn't know if they should hate her or hate her or hate her. But anyway, that's the left, you know. That's their job. Hate is their job. Hate is their things. Haters got to hate, you know. Trumpers got to Trump and haters got to hate. That's how it is. She did something very, very recently in a Twitter where her Twitter account actually was suspended for this. It's something I've done in the past in many different ways, and it's kind of it's pretty neat. The New York Times has hired Sarah Jiang as one of their writers. They're actually their senior advisor and writer, I think, for tech and tech issues, and that's what the New York Times has. Now, unfortunately, she's nuts, and she has a really big history of being an absolute racist. But that doesn't seem to make a difference to the New York Times. I mean, all the shit that's fit to print. That's their new logo, or so. That's how that goes. But anyway, Owen's account was basically suspended for 12 hours because What she simply did was she took a lot of the ranting and ravings of this idiot lunatic that the Times has hired, and she just swapped out the word white with the word black sometimes, and the word white with the word Jews sometimes. So she wrote some things that probably pretty interesting. Let me see if I can get to some of them here. I think I do have a couple of examples. Let me get them. This is Candace Owens. Okay. Jewish people are bullshit. Like dogs pissing on fire hydrants. Are Jewish people genetically disposed to burn faster in the sun? And basically, that's what Candace Owens wrote, and her account was suspended. Sarah Jiang, her account was never suspended, but this is one of her tweets. Dumb-ass fucking white people make up the internet with their opinions like dogs pissing on fire hydrants. So rather than white people, put in Jewish people. Okay? So you swap out the word Jew with white and all of that, and you start to go ahead and you can understand what racism really is. Things need to be equal, folks. You can't have it one way and then have it the other way. I'm not into the new math. I'm into math, you know. Equal, it means equal. It means if you call me a C word, I can call you an N word. That's it. Equal. Most people today don't really believe in equality. They want to have what they want to have, and that's how that is. So there is no equality here when the New York Times hires some racist like this. Here's some other stuff from her. Oh man, it's kind of sick how much of a joy I get out of being cruel to old white men. I open my mouth to politely greet a Republican, but nothing but an unending cascade of vomit flows from my face. Well, she got the vomit flowing from her face thing kind of right. Are white people genetically predisposed to burn faster in the sun, thus logically being only fit to live underground like groveling goblins? This is all allowed. Twitter has no problem with this, but you switch some of these words around and you say that these people are Jews that she's talking about rather than white people. White people now can be shit upon by this government, and no one seems to really give a goddamn. It's unbelievable to me. Dumb-ass fucking white people marking up the internet with their opinions like dogs pissing on fire hydrants. That's really interesting. So this is now I'm going to quote from Owens. The thing is, I wouldn't have minded if I was locked out because I actually agree with Twitter that the language is inappropriate. My point in tweeting that and replacing the word with black and Jewish yesterday was to show how different that mentality is when you see it in that context and you see talking about Jewish people and predisposed to burning under the sun, or black people saying they should live underground. It's horrifically racist. Somehow we've gotten to the point in society where it's okay to say the exact same thing. And this is that's sad, but that's what's going on in media today, and it's kind of nuts. This is what happens when you have a breakdown in free speech, by the way, and you say certain things are hate speech and are not allowed, and certain things can't be said, and whatever. You kind of make up your own rules as you go. That's why you need a constitution. You can't go ahead and be at the whims of a bunch of morons who happen to be running a government at any given moment. Something has to be set up. And for all those folks who think this is some old white frickin' document that has no bearing, why don't you goddamn read it? I bet you never have. And then you can tell me what's so out of date in it. You may find a couple of things, and that's fine. The Constitution is made to be changed. But at least read the goddamn thing. Anyway, this is some other woman who has a whole different way of looking at like police brutality and racism in terms of law enforcement. I thought this would be interesting.
Rude. But you are the hottest cop I have ever been pulled over. And you were so respectful and so nice. You came over, you were communicated what you needed, and then you were hot. See, if the police departments and sheriff hire more hot police officers, we wouldn't have violence anymore. Because all you would do is do what you did, just walk over and say, hey, let me see your driver's license and ID. And do that smile right there. Sir, you could bring peace to the Middle East. And I just want you to know, as I thoroughly watch you walk to your car and back, I just want to know, I could tell you worked out. And I'm glad and I'm appreciate that God helped you to work out. And he did a great job on you. Yes.
So we need hotter cops, you see. If you have hotter cops, then that would be the issue. Now, can you imagine if a man was saying that about a female officer? That's what I mean by equality, right? It's okay here, really, because men really don't care about that kind of nonsense. You know, they really don't. But some women do. And so if the tables were reversed here, you'd have something a little bit of an issue if you had someone saying the opposite, you know. Oh, gee, you are so hot. If there were more women like you, and I love how you look in that uniform, and I watched you going back and forth to your car, you know, that person would have some issues and problems right now, not be looked upon as being kind of natural and good and funny and humorous comment. You see, I really believe that people should be able to say whatever it is they want. Even liberals, even leftists, even anybody. As long as conservatives can also say things. That's where you have your big difference. That's where you have your big difference. I don't know that I'm going to play this whole thing. I may play a little clip of it, but I've been involved in the walkaway movement for the last month or so, in that there are many, many people who basically you would figure are Democrats who are now walking away from that party for very, very good reason. I found this one clip. It's a bit long, but I'm going to play it for you. It has to do with a black man who feels he's been mistreated by the Democrats. Shocking.
What's going on, everybody? So I'm out at the pool watching my son swim around, and I think he thinks he's a fish, but I digress. But anyway, I wanted to make this video just to tell a quick, I guess, summary why I make the bold statement to say that the Democratic Party hate black people. And this is something that it took a while for me to realize, a while for me to understand. It took a little bit to chew on, kind of like a piece of steak. Steak is very difficult to chew and digest. But it was a piece of steak for me to chew and digest the fact that the Democratic Party historically has hated black people. Now, nowadays, people will argue that the Democratic Party hates America and hates everybody, and I would concur with that argument. But when you look at history and you look at the people that are being used, abused, and tricked and conned into supporting the Democratic Party, I have to say the race that's getting the raw end of the deal is black people. And the reason I say that is because for years and years and years, people have told us that we should vote Democrat, that the Republicans are racist, that the Republicans don't care about black people, that the Republicans are somehow anti-African-American agenda, African-American expansion, prosperity. And it has all been a lie. It's unfortunate because a lot of us believe it blindly. You know, I consider myself a passive-aggressive Democrat. I voted for Barack Obama in his second term. If you would have asked me was I Democrat or Republican my whole life, I would have said a Democrat. And to be honest, until now, I don't even know why I would even say I was a Democrat. I didn't even know the difference between the Democrat and the Republican Party. If you would ask me what a conservative was, I wouldn't have known. This is the honest to God truth. And so the Democrats, in my honest opinion, based on my research, very impartial research, I believe that Democrats have historically hated black people. And I think they still hate black people today. Now, this is why I say this. It's not baseless, and it's not me coming up with something to make you feel good. I'm just telling the truth. And if you disagree with me, you could literally go look this stuff up for yourself and fact check me. First and foremost, I'm going to start with the Ku Klux Klan. I grew up believing that the Ku Klux Klan was probably Republicans because the Republicans are racist, right? The Ku Klux Klan definitely murdered, slaughtered, intimidated, and damaged the lives of so many black people. Who created the Democratic Party? Who founded the Democratic Party? I mean, not the Democratic Party, but the Ku Klux Klan. The Democratic Party. You know, that was astonishing to me. I could not believe it. And then when you talk about the ideas in the pursuit of the Democratic Party, even way back then, they were the white supremacists. They were the ones that wanted white nationalists or white nationalism. They are the ones that did not want black people to vote. They literally promoted and voted in favor of anti-laws and legislation that will give black people the benefit to vote and become equal citizens and desegregate from schools. Not one person can deny that. Those are facts. You may not like them. You may be eating steak right now, and it's going to take a little bit to digest, but those are facts. Then you go to Bill Clinton, and you talk about the war on drugs. Now, I'm all for promoting laws and being a law-abiding citizen, but they created a war on drugs that affected black people and put more black people behind bars and separated them from their families like no other legislation, no other program ever in history. That to me is a direct attack against African American people and the black community. Go look it up. Let's keep moving to more contemporary history. I mean, we could look at Barack Obama. What did he do for black people? Nothing. He did nothing. We can look at the rhetoric that's pushed about anti-police rhetoric that was promoted by Barack Obama. What did that do for the black community? Nothing. See, they're not trying to tell young brothers to follow the law. They're not trying to tell young brothers how to best behave themselves and put themselves at a proper position when dealing with law enforcement, which could avoid 95 to 98% of them getting killed. They don't tell you to sign up for the police department and monitor your own communities. They're not telling you that. They're telling you to resist, which then makes you more volatile towards police, which then causes more interactions or more negative interactions with police. The residual effect of what Barack Obama did in relation to police made matters worse. Not only for police, not only for black police officers, but for police officers in general. And what did you see happen when you ridicule and you demonize police? Where they stop patrolling communities, where they're going to get fired for just looking at somebody wrong. They're not going to get they're going to get fired if they make an illegal arrest and somebody just decides to resist arrest. So they quit patrolling in the communities. And what do? The crime rate spikes. What did Barack Obama do for Chicago? Nothing. I don't know any legislation. I don't know any cry. Nobody was sitting out there crying about the separation of young people from their families in Chicago. Whether they get murdered or sent to prison or they high on drugs. Nobody's crying about their children being separated from them. Nobody's trying to tell drug dealers to get out of jail free or get out of jail early so they can be reunited with their family, committing felony crimes, just like people crossing the border. I don't hear them talking about that. They did nothing. Then you move to, we could talk about even right now. What are the Democrats doing? They're picking illegal immigrants over black people. Again, they don't need your vote. You can't do nothing for them. So they don't care about your families. They don't care about you being separated. They want the next voting block. And the next voting block is illegal immigrants. They don't even, to be honest, they don't even care about legal immigrants. They only care about illegal immigrants. Do your research. What are they doing? What did you see? What's the propaganda on TV? They literally, politicians are crying in the street, making a big deal about reuniting families. And see, they're using illegals too. And if you're an illegal immigrant and you watching this, you need to beware because you next. What are they going to do to you next? They're going to use you until you vote for them, and then they're going to throw you away. Did you hear what Chuck Schumer said about illegals? Did you hear how Hillary Clinton was talking about illegals before President Trump became president? Barack Obama deported more illegal immigrants than any president in history combined. You next. They only crying at these facilities, these detention facilities, because they want your vote, because it's close to midterms. And then once they're done with you, if President Trump is to be able to get DACA passed or whatever, and they don't just automatically give people amnesty, they come up with better programs where people can come in here legally instead of illegally. We build a wall and secure the border. They have no use for you. They're not going to use you anymore. They're going to be on to doubling down on the LGBTQ community or whatever the acronym is today. I think it's like 40 letters now. But they're going to go on to that community and push a false agenda to get you to vote, to get your emotions involved. I have conversations with people all the time about President Trump. They go, oh, he's a racist. I say, well, name something that President Trump has done negatively against you. You're a woman in America. What has negatively affected you in America? Or you get more money back on your taxes? Okay, that's negative. Okay, I guess you call that negative. Female unemployment is the lowest it's been in like 20 years. I guess that's negative. You know, he is putting women on a pedestal and literally is promoting women to being in positions that they've never been in before. You know, the first successful campaign manager in history was Kellyanne Conway, who obviously was Trump's campaign manager. promoting women to be successful in America. What are y'all crying about? What has he done negative against black people in America? Give you more money back on your taxes? Give him more tax incentives to single moms? Which obviously over 70% of African-American homes now, well over 70% of African-American homes now are primarily supported by single moms. He gave them more money. More money back on their tax, gave them a tax break. Is that affecting black people? He asked you to come to the table and let's talk about policy. Let's talk about prison reform. But then you fake leaders don't want to go talk to him. That's on you, that's not him. What is he doing negative against black people? He turned around, HBCU, signed an executive order, giving them $1 billion. Some say that's more than what Barack Obama did. For those of you who don't know what HBCUs are, that's historical black colleges. Nobody want to talk about 1998 when President Trump was awarded, was given an award for his contribution to the minority community through the Rainbow Coalition. Jesse Jackson, he was honored alongside Rosa Parks and Muhammad Ali. But they don't want to tell you that. All they want to do is say things negative. But it's
I didn't realize it'd go that long, but I actually like this guy a lot. I think he's the next cop. I think I'm not sure from where. In the picture here looks like there's palm trees and all sorts of good stuff. I don't know if he's maybe if that's where he lives or what's going on with that. And we're going to end the show in a couple of minutes, but there were some other kind of just cute things that we found out. This is a way quicker video of a new beer brewery. I think it's in Poland, and they're making brew with a whole new concept.
Imagine a woman of your dreams, your object of desire, her charm, her sensuality, her passion. Try her taste, feel her smell, hear her voice. Now free your fantasies and imagine that with a magic wand you can close it in one bottle of beer. The golden drink brewed with her lure and grace and flavored with instincts, which source we have identified. We have discovered a process of transmission of her essence, of her femininity, her instincts by isolation of lactic acid bacteria from her vagina. Our laboratory isolates and multiplies the bacteria in a safe way. Additionally, we examine the final bacteria in terms of its purity and safety. We use the bacteria in the production of sour ales, lambics, Flanders ales, and sour stouts. By using yoni bacteria in the process, the beers contain femininity and women's instincts. We have selected beautiful Czech model Alexandra Brandlova to be our source of the yoni. That is a kind of female whose pheromones will stay with you after the meeting for the following week long. It's total insanity and excitement, reminding you of the best time of your youth. This insanity will overwhelm your mind with the first taste of our beer. We have devoted much time in seeking such a woman. And finally, we have found a woman who possesses all the desired instincts which we wanted to frame in our bottle. We have bottled the beer in a golden black bottle, which serves as an ark of her instincts. It presents her name with the date of the collection of her vaginal swab. Also, it has our logo, the yoni, which is based on an original sculpture in a Vietnamese temple. Yoni means vagina in Sanskrit. The success of the enterprise depends on you. We have prepared many perks, including vouchers for the beers and gadgets. For the most generous, we can prepare a home-brewed beer based on their girlfriend's yoni bacteria. Our financial goal is 150,000 euros. It will enable us to brew 6 batches of a approximately 16,600 beers. The surplus will help us in the creation of future products, including the beers we have described in our Indiegogo offer. We encourage leading beer distributors and importers to cooperate with us. Also, we encourage the best beer stores around the world to take part in our crowdfunding action.
Well, if you'd like some vaginal beer, I guess that's the place to go. The Order of Yoni. Crowdsourcing this out. Kind of crazy, isn't it? Not to be outdone. You know, there's other experimental things that have gone on in terms of vaginal secretion and food. And let's
A woman makes yogurt out of her vagina. Oh, no, thank you. Hey guys, what's happening? Dave Wobble here. Welcome to I.O. Okay, so do you think eating bodily fluids is disgusting? Let me know down there. Celia Westbrook, she is a PhD student from the University of Wisconsin. And she's been making some serious rounds on the intranet. And that's because she made yogurt from the bacteria from her vaginator. That's right, it's Terminator with a vagina. Now, she says she did this thing overnight after she collected all of her ingredients with a dirty old wooden spoon. Dirty old wooden spoon? Why do I feel like I'm some weird backwater hick town? I mean, you're a PhD student, aren't you supposed to use like a metal spoon? If you guys think that this is kind of disgusting, hit that like button, guys. Before conducting her experiment, she actually consulted a microbiologist. His name is Larry Forney, and he's a little bit horny. Well, not really, but he said it was a bad idea. A bad idea because that yogurt could go bad. The yogurt could go bad because there's a lot of bacteria in, down there. Bacteria known as lactobacillus, which actually is used in cheese. That's right, people have used their for goat cheese before. I wouldn't really call it goat cheese. During her experiment, she tried the yogurt with blueberries and said it tasted like Indian yogurt. But I gotta know from you guys, would you guys try this? Because I don't think I would. Thanks for watching, guys. Dave Wapple here. Keep it real, keep it classy, keep it on the flip side.
Well, I don't care for yogurt too much anyway in any form, so I really wouldn't be using yogurt too much vaginally or otherwise. Anyway, I hope you had some fun today. I'm surprised I did not get a call again. Kind of depressing to me. You got to make me happy, folks out there. I know I get a lot of replay and all of that, and that seems to be where my bread and butter is right now, but I would love some interaction on the show, which will be Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. We go at least an hour and a half usually, sometimes 2 hours, depending on if we have guests and what other stuff is going. You've been listening to the Michael Blum Show. I want to thank everybody for joining me this evening. And remember, everything in life is possible. The fewer things are probable. But one thing's for certain, and that's you're alive. So go ahead out and live life to its fullest, because tomorrow is promised to nobody. See you next week.